Hello Year 10, this is Mr McLindon. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. For this week, for your schoolwork, we've got some really important GCSE speech writing to do. As you can see from the 2 bullet points there, you will have to produce a speech for the speaking listening element of your GCSE English language. Speech writing is also important because on English language paper 2, you may well be asked to write a speech as well. So it's a really important skill. It's something that we've got to get done. So work hard and let's do a good job. Okay, a summary of this week's tasks. So task 1, read and watch a speech and summarise the key arguments. That'll only take about 15 minutes. Then analyse key features of a speech. We'll look at that shortly. That'll be about 30 minutes work. And planning your own speech, around about 30 minutes. Then Seneca revision. You can see the link there to click on, or if you're already on Seneca and you like to just put the class code in, there's the class code at the bottom. So they're the things we need you to get done in this week. Okay, speech writing. So you're going to study a speech by Boris Johnson. I won't insult your intelligence by reading this slide to you, so have a little read of that. As it says, even if you're not a big fan of Boris Johnson, that's fine. We're looking at this as a skilled speech writer rather than someone who we're saying necessarily should agree with his politics. Okay, because he is a good orator, a skilled or eloquent speaker. Okay, so you know the situation we're in, the lockdown. There's just a little bit of context on that slide. I'll let you read it. And I'm going to pause now and I'll give you a chance to watch that clip. If you don't have access to YouTube, no problem at all, because you can actually read the clip on the next slide. Okay, so hopefully no one's feeling too anxious about coronavirus, but obviously it is an anxious time for us. But if we understand the purpose of Johnson's speech is to make people stay at home, he might want us to feel a bit frightened, a bit cautious. So please don't be upset by what you've read. Right, can you summarise Johnson's speech in 6 words? I'll leave that to you. Number 2, lists 5 arguments that Johnson makes. So in that first paragraph, he argues, doesn't he, that coronavirus is a really serious problem. There's your first mark. See if you can pick out 4 other arguments he makes and back them up with evidence, just like I did then. After you've done that, there's a final task. This speech was made a month ago. Do you think it was successful? Love to know what you think. Okay, now the preparation for task 2, which is the big task that we actually want you to send to your teachers. We're going to look at Boris Johnson's techniques in that speech. So it'd be good as you're doing this to look back and pick quotes from the speech. We're going to look at his hyperbole, his exaggeration. So hyperbole, I've got mountains of ironing to do and millions of essays to mark. Obviously I'm exaggerating. Emotive language, poor innocent children. Direct address, you can make a difference. Repetition, we can make a difference, we can change the world. Rule of 3, triplets or triadic structure. This could improve things for you, your children and your children's children. Using short, simple sentences for effect. We must act now. Using lists and pronouns to create a sense of togetherness. Us, our, we. Our NHS depends upon you. So they're the kind of techniques that good speechwriters use. Okay, so hyperbole is using exaggerated language as I've just explained, and this is kind of a waggle paragraph. Okay, so the coronavirus is the biggest threat this country has faced for decades. How has Boris Johnson used hyperbole? What's the effect? Johnson uses the superlative phrase, the biggest, to highlight how serious the situation is, making it seem like there's nothing greater we've faced as a country. Look what I've done there. I've picked out some evidence from the quote, the biggest. I've mentioned the technique, superlative. I've said why it's used. Furthermore, the noun threat has connotations of aggression and destruction from an enemy that we must be vigilant against. So again, I've picked out a key word. I've mentioned what type of word it is, noun. I've said what the effect is. Also remember, use big words and write a lot. Connotations, aggression, destruction, vigilance. The examiner's thinking you're a bright, intelligent person when he's hearing things like that. I continue. He uses the time phrase for decades to show how this is a once-in-a-lifetime situation and we must pull together and do the right thing, like people imagined the country did decades ago during the war. By the way, I must say that's Miss Crozier's waggle, and it's a really good one, I think. Okay, so for the next 5 or 6 slides, I want you to have a go at pausing, reading the quote, trying to explain what the technique is and what the effect is, and trying to do it as well as this waggle. This is task 2, and it's the one I want you to email into your teacher. So for this one, what is the effect of Johnson using the word you? If you're in my class, you will have heard me refer to triadic structure. That's what we mean when I say triplet. Okay, so for those last half dozen slides, the analysis you've done of each of those quotations and the techniques used, that's what I want you to send to me if you're in my group, and to send to your other English teachers unless they tell you differently. Little extension task, some great orators you could listen to. Winston Churchill, it's actually Gary Oldman playing him in a film, and it's the famous "We shall fight them on the beaches" speech. I love Barack Obama's New Hampshire concession speech from 2008 in his campaign to become president. Watch from 9 minutes and 9 seconds onwards, that last 3 minutes, it's absolutely fantastic. And maybe the greatest or most famous speech of all time, Martin Luther King, "I Have a Dream." So if you want a little extension, listen to those speeches, work out what techniques these great orators are using. Okay, and then finally I want you to plan a speech of your own. So choose a topic you'd like to write about. Why I love or why I hate might be something that something you find you can write about well. how you help save the earth, why Britain should have harsher or less harsh prisons, why employers should or should not be allowed to discriminate against people with visible tattoos and piercings. Should that man in the top right hand corner face discrimination because he looks like? If you're a boss, should you be able to say no, you can't come to work dressed like that? How to improve your fitness, why elderly people should use the internet, how facilities for young people can be improved in Halton. These are just some examples, but it's up to you to come up with your own idea for a speech. Maybe do some research about it on the internet and then brainstorm 5 ideas that you could develop into a full burger paragraph. So 5 ideas that you could turn into paragraphs. I'm not asking you to write the speech now. We'll do that next week. But your last task this week is to plan your speech. Remember, the second task, analysing Boris Johnson's speech, is the one that I'd like you to send to me or to your English teacher, unless they tell you differently. Okay, work hard, go for it, and I can't wait to see what you've come up with. Email your work to english@thegrangeacademy.co.uk, english@thegrangeacademy.co.uk, or submit it via Show My Homework. If you are submitting pictures, please take a really clear picture that shows the work and doesn't have other things in the screen and is the right way up and so on, so we can mark it. Right, do a good job. That's 9 minutes. That's quite long enough listening to me, and I'll speak to you next week. Bye.